Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh and very good morning to all student BPMG 3053. Okay, good morning ya. All right, this morning I'm going to discuss on the chapter part of the technical parts in the transport organization lah. I mean day-to-day activities, monitoring this fuel, yeah. And then the most important thing that as the transport officers working in transport organization, you should be able to monitor this because the more than 20% cost came up from this fuel. Yeah, because every time we move the lorries, vehicle, and so on, this one is recorded to the highest cost lah in transport organization. If we manage to monitor, wisely, at the end of the transaction or business, you should be able to increase your profitability. Yeah. Even you manage to reduce by 1 or 2% also, that one is cost you. Yeah. And then will affect you in terms of profitability. Yeah. For example, you manage to get 2,000 revenue for 1 day. Yeah. If you can maintain, you can save cost for 2% of 2%. How much money? At least 20 to 38. If 1 month, how much? If one vehicle, 20 ringgit to 3 ringgit, you can save cost. If 100 vehicle, you can save 200. For example, yeah. And then kalau katakan that one is 1 day, if 1 month, how much? Thousands of money you can reduce. Yeah. And very simple. Yeah. Just monitor saja that thing, and then to make sure that that one is didn't interrupt the process, operational process in day-to-day activities, so that you manage to get thing done lah, without interruption. Yeah. So what is have 7 objectives here. Yeah. Number one, to have a proper control on fuel usage, define increase of fuel costs. And then the fuel costs keep on increasing, yeah, and then very little record that saying that the price reduce. The most of the price increase, yeah, 3 cent, 5 cent, 7 cent. That one is cost there. Just imagine if you can reduce, yeah, every liters consumed by the vehicle, yeah, that means it can save a lot, yeah, to our the whole overall capacity of the vehicle in our organization, yeah. And then number two is to ensure profit for the company. Uh, Tadi saya dah beritahu, if you get revenue for 2,000 for one vehicle a day, you can reduce by 2 or 3% of the fuel cost. That means you can have lots, 20, 30 ringgit, yeah. That one money lah. Even that one is small part of it, yeah. So you have to monitor, yeah. Number three, to have established program tailored operations, yeah. That means how much fuel that required, you manage, you calculate, and then expected of the revenue you have to obtain or receive at the ends of your operational activities. That one is important. Number four, to provide detailed information on the process that need to be undertaken in order to successfully implemented. Yeah, I mean, it's not only you monitoring that you have to extend the knowledge to drivers. Yeah, especially they how the important of the fuel. You cannot say just orang kata take take it lightly. You have to be more prudent, checking, monitoring, advising, yeah, monitoring, and at the same time you have to have at least verbal communication to the driver in order to manage, yeah, in order to manage the fuel accordingly. Yeah. Number four, to know on the performance of the vehicle and the drivers, ya, target vehicle on drivers, ya. Ya, jadi kalau you check one by one to the vehicle that so that so you should be able to get the thing done by monitoring one to one to drivers whether this driver is going is manage their fuel properly or vehicle properly. That means at the end of the day, you can reward the driver best lah, best in term of profit, best in term of orang kata managing fuel and so on. Yeah, so it's your responsibility lah as a transport officers working in transport organization. Yeah, and then number five, to avoid misuse of fuel and healthy activities. Yeah, and healthy ni, sometimes for example, when the engine on, yeah, without doing anything, most of the drivers are actually on the engines, and that one is cost lah. Why don't they off the engines? Ataupun sometimes use unhealthy, transfer fuel from tank to tank and so on. That one is not actually. Then make bad or malpractice, yeah, not good practice lah in term of uh, fuel, yeah. They can sell because fuel outside very expensive, anything can sell. And then if selling fuel, that means you are actually reducing the operational cost. That means cost you more lah, cost the organization more. So which therefore at the end of the day you cannot get a good in term of profit. Yeah. And then unhealthy activity ni macam jual lah, selling thing outside. You sell to somebody outside to public and so on to make extra income to your driver and so on. That one is uh, it's not rampant, but all the time can see people are doing these activities, especially drivers and so on. So you have monitor lah, yeah. And then how to monitor, we are going to discuss later. And then the last one is the ensure that value of money through direct investment cash flow. That means we spend 10,000 for fuel for one day. That means if you can reduce by 2 or 3%, that means good for you. That means you are actually maintaining the cash flow, and then at the end you have good in terms of profitability lah. Yeah. For example, on the overall performance of that particular day is 100,000 lah, yeah, one day, your vehicle, overall vehicle. That means you can save about 2 or 3%, how much you can get, yeah? 2 or 300 ringgit and so on. These are actually things that to be done. Yeah. Monitor as an officers working in transport organization. Right. Okay, fuel management program or in bracket FMP, yeah, covers the following section. They are discussed detail as a guide. Selection, purchase, storage, control. Uh, Selection, I mean place lah. And then type of fuel, maybe you are actually keeping petrol ataupun diesel. These two things lah, two type of the bahan api lah ya, gas. Day to day activities. Sometimes we store in the office compound, ya, office area, store the tanker situ kan. But need to be monitored, ya. Sometimes the tanker is orang kata dented, ataupun corroded, berkarat and so on and so on. Maybe leak, ya, to underground, it cost you more. So for those having your own tank in the particular organization, so you have to monitor all these things. Sometimes they put on top. If on top we can find, yeah, we can see the leakages. Yeah, kalau underground, you can see, you can measure. Sometimes no, and then sometimes you have to understand the whole use of the tanker lah. Sometimes it can last for 15 years, 20 years, sometimes less than that. So from time to time, we can monitor the total of number liter received from the sellers and then put in a tanker, and then you can measure inside this, and then the total number of fuel outflow, keluar, fill up in the vehicle tank and so on, and then at any one time you can we're able to know the stock inside the tank, how much and total of liter at one particular time. This one is actually stock that we have to monitor daily. Yeah. Okay, number two, they kata purchase cash or credit basis. Normally in the transport organization, we call Petronas tanker to come, yeah, and fill ups, yeah, and then during the receiving, yeah, for money. It's like we receive the money lah. So total liter. Normally in one tank we have 3,360 liter one tank. A long tank, yeah, 40-footer tanker. Yeah, that one is total liter is 63,360. And then remaining in our tank, how much? How many liters? So calculate and plus. And then during the distribution time, fill up the tank to our vehicle. So all those things have to monitor. Uh, and then during the receiving juga, you have to monitor lah. Once the tanker come and see and fill up, so you have to check, yeah, uh, the total invoice liters that you receive from Petronas or Shell or what another fuel sellers, yeah, fuel tankers, so that you can see, we can calculate the exact amount inside our tank. So fill up, and then to make sure that you have to check on top of the tank, make sure all the fuel are delivered and transferred in our tank. So these are the processes that we have normally. And then they are actually monitored by officers in charge lah, you lah, in transport organization, maybe executive, as a manager, because this one is costly. Uh, for example, if the total of fuel in one tanker is 63,000, uh, 36,000 liter, for example. So, sorry, 60,000 liter. So the cost is already roughly, kalau change to money, is 120,000 ringgit. It's not that cheap, yeah. Satu tanker tu 60, is cost about 120,000 ringgit. Just imagine, big money, yeah. So if you fail to monitor according to the requirements, you are actually loss lah at the end of the day. So for you, it's very prudent or important for you to check during the delivery, so that any single liter you can save here, that particular process. So you check lah in and out, and then they got the speedometer there, they got the dipstick there. You can calculate and so on to make sure that the total number of fuel received and remaining volume of liter inside the tank, yeah, our tank is actually included. Yeah. Okay, number three kata storage, safety, insurance and surveillance. Kalau kita ada tanker inside our compound, you need to see the safety matter lah. For example, you have to have at least fire extinguisher there. The people can use the fire extinguisher in case of emergency, yeah, in case of or I call it fire and so on and so forth. And then of course that our tanker is actually insured. Kena beli insurance. For example, at any one time you store it's about 1,000 liter at one time. One 100,000 liter lah. 100,000, maybe you got two tank there, 100,000, 120,000. 100,000, that means kalau change to value of money is about 440,000 at at any one time you store. That means you have to insure that. You have to buy insurance and to make sure that anything went wrong you can claim. Kalau tak ada insurance, it's going to be difficult. You're running a loss. Because kalau berlaku kebakaran, it's going to cost you more. Dangers to our neighboring punya neighbor punya accommodations or places and so on, yeah. And then you have from time to time you have to make a surveillance, yeah, in terms of safety. That's why in the first place, and when you store the orang kata fuel in our compound organization, to make sure that safety equipments need to be there, and then people are actually working there need to know how to operate the safety equipment. For example, fire extinguishers. If anything went wrong, can actually put out the fire immediately. Yeah. And then you need to have also training lah for them from time to time, yeah. Or in case of emergencies, you have to advise verbally, through practical and so on. Yeah. Anything went wrong, you need to be done. If anything went wrong, you have to be done all those things and so on. So you need to do practice. For example, for people or staff you are handing over the office of the petrol ataupun diesel, you need to have a proper SOP, standing operating procedure, so that they can follow the safety requirement, and then they have to follow the taking over proper. For example, you take over how many liter remaining, already, because early in the morning they already measure that thing, so that the total of fuel inside the tanker should be equal as what they calculated in the account. Yeah. Okay, number four, they kata control, in charge control you lah, yeah. The person that in and out person need to be expert, need to be advised, yeah, verbally, yeah, through standard operating procedures and so on. Anyhow, from time to time, we have to monitor lah, yeah. You have to communicate to them, you have to check, you have to sign. They got proper signing process, yeah, and handing taking over and witness, yeah, by the officers in charge. This is you are talking about a tanker that we have, and not a vehicle. After this vehicle, kita macam mana nak control transforming or transfer fuel from the tanker to the vehicle. Kita beritahu ya. Alright. Dia kata apa yang menyebabkan fuel ni berbeza penggunaannya. Ini masalah ya. The most important thing factor affecting fuel consumption, penggunaan minyak, some of factors outside control have to understand their effect. Some of us are actually taking this too lightly because you got money. Maybe you have vehicle, you have car, and then everything it's okay, no problem. But if you're working in the organization, different, because they are actually involved the larger number of vehicle movements at one particular time. 100 vehicle move, 200 vehicle move for based on the capacity of the organization. So how to monitor? Yeah, okay. Actually, affecting fuel consumption for that particular organization is actually have seven or eight things. Number one, they kata vehicle age. Vehicle age also they consume number of liter of fuel. Yeah. Uh, for example, the vehicle more than 10 years as compare a new vehicle just uh, bought it, different. They got certain liters because the orang kata engines, old engine, that mean they consume more. Kalau servicing tak betul, not proper according to requirement, maybe they are become hot and so on, they consume a lot of money. Yeah. Okay, kalau new vehicle, less of vehicle use. Tapi tak terlalu banyak lah dia punya gap kan. 1 or 2 liters, make it different also. And then the sizes, the smaller vehicle, they consume less. The bigger vehicle, they consume more. All those things. Number one. Number two, weight, berat. Berat of the vehicle. If you carry 1 ton, a big vehicle, but you carry 1 ton, they can got less of fuel consumption. If the big vehicle you carry a maximum tonnage that you're going to transport, then you are actually using more fuel for that particular movement. And then depend on the cargo lah in that particular movement. The bigger the weights, the more weight, that means more fuel consumed. Yeah, that one is a basic thing. Yeah. Okay, number three, driving skill. Driving skill is important. Sometimes people used to ram that thing. Speeds. I got lots. Orang kata includes orang kata the total number of fuel usage. Yeah. Kalaupun if you are driving, for example, slow and so on, you got less or using less of fuel use. Yeah. Driving skill. Okay, and then sometimes you used to you ram, sometimes no ram using the pedal kan, speeding and so on, jalan laju, pada nambahan, all those things are actually involve fuel usage. Yeah. And then distance also. The more you go, the fuel usage more use. Yeah, the less, sikit lah. Yeah, that one is a basic thing. And then number five, the engine type. The bigger or the horsepower. For example, 400 horsepower, 420 horsepower. And then more fuel usage lah. Yeah. Kalau smaller lah. Like a proton kancil. Proton saga and kancil. They got different sizes. 1000 cc, they got 1005 cc's, and they got 2004 cc's, and so on. Different usage of fuel. The basic thing lah. If one is your personal car. Same goes to the lorry sizes of the lorry if you hold one day in that particular organization. And then road condition also play important role. Yang rosak, jalan rosak, hilly type, sometimes very narrow, make you do ramming more your vehicle also cost you more fuel to use. And then the final one is weather condition. If you're driving at night, hujan, lebat, kabut, and so on, make you more stoppage and so on and so forth, also involve you cost. Sometimes terrain, hilly, and so on. So make you consume a big number of fuel on particular time. Okay, vehicle, dalam vehicle ni, type of vehicle, you say, the more that the bigger size of the vehicle, the bigger normal use, more usage of the fuel. Vehicle have significant influence on fuel performance in any operation. Vehicle lah. It's smaller that you control, smaller fuel use. The bigger that you control, the bigger use of fuel. And then vehicle spec such as vehicle specifications such as gross weight, vehicle size, engine specification, engine power, torque, gearbox, final drive ratio, and so on and so forth. Also affect spec. Uh, just now I said the bigger size, that means the bigger consumption of the fuel. Smaller style consumption of the fuel. Age of the vehicle tadi kan, age. Kalau 10 tahun, you are using more fuel. Kalau 1 year, less fuel, for example. It's not that much, but they got different, yeah. And then operational detail, for example, such as dimension between the tractor and trailer. Kalau pakai trailer lagi, lagi banyak, because they involve extra weight and sizes. Uh, kan, maybe extra weight, sizes, and plus loading, ya. Dia punya cargo lah, ya, will involve the consumptions of fuel at one particular time. And then number 4, equipment and product use such as lubricant, telematic, and aromatic juga. Kalau kita uh, gunakan orang kata cylinder yang murah, maybe cheaper of the cylinder oil and so on, and then cause the engine hot, for example, temperature high, and then also cause fuel. Kalau we use proper maintenance, use a standard oil as the instructed by manufacturers, and then to make sure at one time is the engine you can control the temperature of the engine, maybe engine cooler as compared to cheaper one. That means you also can save a lot of fuel consumption because hot carry more fuel. If less hot, for example, you can save fuel. That one is a basic thing, yeah, you have to understand. And then that one also relate to your personal vehicle as well. And then number 2, load, as I said just now, load ni muatan, ya. Load also like that. If you carry 1 ton, you less fuel usage. If you carry 20 ton, more fuel usage. 40 ton, the more, yeah, and so on and so forth, yeah. Roads, road tadi sudah beritahu, condition that roads not get good, and then banyak batu-batu pecah, and then jalan rosak, the damage of the road and so on, and then the smaller lane, for example, and then hilly type, you need to have at least ram for the pedal and so on, so you carry fuel also, and then rule of thumb, the more time driver has to change gear and brake to accelerate, the hose of fuel consumption will be used. Ya. Maknanya kalau banyak gunakan minyak pedal, minyak turun, naik turun dan turun, ramming kan, so the fuel cost more. A busy urban environment also impact, for example, congestion, as I said. That one is hidden cost that you have to look into it and try to avoid the congestion places. By the time you waiting also cost, ramming also cost, and then running on the engine also cost. That's why kalau tempat jam, that means you are actually cost not effective lah that particular. Maybe you are actually running at loss at that particular day, because traffic congestion. A lot of stopping ataupun stoppage, starting vehicle losing its momentum, macam bus henti kan, state bus, dia banyak minyak lah, instead of you direct from A to B, and then you stoppage 8 to 30 stoppage at one particular time. That one is cost more. By the time you want to ramming, also take more fuel to start. And then variation of traffic condition also create differing performance result even the route say traffic congestion, ya. Okay. Fuel management juga, dia kata apa ni fuel management? Extra knowledge for you, dia kata as overall cost of fuel management. Tengok, yang ni dia study is about roughly is about 29% of the total cost came from fuel. The rest, repair maintenance, about 12 to 30%, replacement tube, 3%, driver, 28%. fuel ni lagi mahal daripada driver. Protect 1%, depreciation 1%, ataupun 10% kan. Ni 10% lah ni. Dia boleh buat 7%, so but normal 10% lah. Vehicle insurance 7% and so on. Yeah. Look, fuel itself take about 25, 29 to 30%. Cost, bigger cost in fuel. Which therefore you have to zoom in. The most important, you control the fuel, the usage of fuel at one particular time is very important. Yeah. You tak akan nampak result. End result nanti you nampak lah. You can see the end result. You can get very good in terms of profitability lah. In bracket maximize lah the usage of the vehicle. Okay. What else we have here? Dia kata, this one is the part of the contoh lah, example. The most is kata fuel price between 195 to ringgit. It keep on, dia floating, increasing. Most of the time increase lah. At one time tu sampai RM2.50, RM2.50 per liter. Cheap, still cheap in Malaysia. Very cheap as compared to Indonesia, Nigeria, Singapore, Thailand, yeah, cheap. But you cannot compare to Brunei lah and Saudi Arabia. And then Malaysia is considered cheap in Southeast Asia lah because of fuel, because subsidized by government. And then at the same time, we produce our own fuel oil. That's why the price is cheap. And then how to calculate, dia harus study, total kilometer run minus by liter use, and then you have the target for that particular moment. For example, 2.5 kilometer per liter. That one is must. You have to understand the basic as the transport officer lah, yeah. So you can run. So the average of the vehicle is 2.5 kilometer per liter. The average of the old vehicle may be 2.2 kilometer per liter. All these things, yeah. Yeah. Okay. So implementing the fuel management program, dia kata, in addition in financial aspect, when introducing a fuel management program, you will almost study to be changing some element and culture of the organization. One of the main aims must be developed driver, yeah, so that they are naturally be automatically in the fuel efficient manner. So during our first grade, inspection and so on, so you have to verbally communicate it, verbal communication lah. Make sure fuel need to use properly. Kalau katakan no detail assignment and so on, you have to off the engine, aircon and so on. So verbally lah, even in our standing operating procedure stated there, from time to time we have to make orang kata educate them lah, remind them from time to time so that they can reduce. What are the effect on that? You have to explain to the driver, communicate, talk, especially during the first break inspection. We just at the same time driver can assemble, you can communicate at once. Yeah. Therefore, management must provide support, encourage making it clear that organization encourage safe, fuel efficient driving as part of the company in future. I mean, kalau organisasi itu melihat yang terbaik, looking a proper control on that particular fuel management process from top to bottom, that means we can secure in terms of fuel usage. Fuel usage, that means at the end of the financial period, we can get them of good profit. So management recognize fuel cost usage are manageable response by using same technique and discipline any other management issues. Yeah. So setidaknya with that monitoring process, so at the same time we can also manage other things as well. Kalau dah kita educate in the first page postage to the drivers on the important monitoring all that thing. So at the end of the day, we can see the quality of work in that particular organization. That means what we can say that the management able to manage is not only fuel but other thing as well. And then the most difficult part is to manage fuel. If you can manage proper fuel, other thing if become to be easier job to be carried out. This one is the most, yeah. Okay. Once convicted, the backing of field management program should be ideally come from many parts of the business, including the boards. Unites, make sure that trade union also involved in the program. Sometimes you face difficulties, yeah. And then in transport company, we have unions. Yeah? Union ni group of union lah. As I said before that, in the HR punya syllabus, union and non-union. Union, that means they got control by somebody outside to facilitate the moral of the drivers so that you can direct out to union chap, make sure that these are actually things need to be done, monitors, in order to help company grow in terms of movement, in terms of profitability, in terms of business and profitability as well. Yeah. And then the final one, success more likely to travel and those involved feel that whole organization is committed, philosophy is everything, is the kata not only you drivers but the whole organization need to be committed, yeah. Committed mean involved lah, indirectly even you are working in admin section, accounting, engineering, yeah, yard and so on. Fuel consumption is the most important on kata material need to be monitored, yeah, from time to time, yeah. So you can save this fuel, that means you can improve more in terms of profit. Yeah. Yang ini dikatakan fuel saving lah ya, fuel saving to the whole organizations ya. So what else here we have dikata achieving fuel saving requires an investment time, effort and money. Okay. Financial expenditure of fuel saving device and new vehicle is easily quantified. However, hidden cost cannot be seen, also exists, which also be more difficult to identify. Terlalu sukar. Sometimes we monitor that thing, do surveillance, also got thing happen behind that. Yeah. So as much as possible, we try our level best to monitor. Yeah. Tapi kalau nak hilang juga in between, so we can't do anything. Yeah. As long as that mean you can do whatever we can, so can save. Yeah. Lot. Kalau everybody in that particular organization is cooperation, uh, that means you can save a lot. Yeah. Such costs include investment in management, clerical, and operated time. Sama juga lah, cost ni involve yang lain juga lah. Establish this cost beginning a project will be help to set target. It will helpful when monitoring the performance of the program. Dia kata kalau kita ada vehicle or fuel management program dalam satu organisasi itu amatlah baik. Dia juga boleh stabiliskan kos-kos lain juga lah dalam organisasi. Ya. So with the profits of the fuel management program, that means you can also do other things better, more better than the others, ya. Macam moral of staff, ya, welfare, ya, and then any activities which you can save this, you can also develop the things, organize the thing. Yeah, you can save cost in fuel. That means with the saving cost, that means you can develop, you can do other activities as well, dinner, lunch, with staff, yeah, and so on and so forth. This one is good, yeah. The simple approach related cost and benefit is payback, which look into cost, time taken to generate saving, cover those cost. That means tadi beritahu hidden cost kan. When you monitor proper, that means you are actually monitor the cost, yeah. And then at the end of the day, dia kata, oi, we can save a lot of money because our driver are actually well educated, and then well orang kata manage the fuel, and at the same time also the officer in charge there also proper monitoring, doing a proper monitoring program. And then at the same time, instead of we spend 1 million for the cost that particular month, we already save 950,000, for example. That particular, that one is based on the movement lah. For example, we managed to orang kata reduce by 5% of the fuel at one particular time. With 5%, money at least 50,000. So that money of 50,000 we can spend to other welfare, moral of the organisation of the people lah. Macam kita buat gathering and so on. That one is money, of course. Kalau kita tak buat pun, that one is included in terms of when it come to the profitability at the end of the financial period. Save lah, saving cost. Yeah. So what else? Saya kata fuel efficiency through developing skill lah. The more understand about the factor that your fuel efficiency is, more control you have them. Once identified, you can take action against these deficiencies. Important early setup process by introducing new practice system in our operations. Have the target. Have you targets identify problem areas before instead wasting your value resources areas that are performing well? A simple set solution has evolved from different formal measurement system. Jadi ini juga skill untuk diorang lah. Even you have to have monitor from day-to-day activities, and then you have to read the SOP again, verbal communication, yeah. And then from top and bottom, you have to realize the importance of the fuel cost and so on. Because the cost fuel kan more kan, about 29%, 30%. So from time to time, you have to establish the needs lah, yeah. Kata SOP need to be improved, yeah. Gathering and communication to the unionized organization. So we have to communicate with them, discuss few, and then make program, make a target. Can do that, yeah. And then you can monitor vehicle to vehicle, the usage of the fuel, and then the target. So kalau kita boleh targeted, for example, 2.4 kilometer run per liter, so on, they maintain 2.4, 2.5, it's good lah. So kalau katakan dia monitor 2.1.9 kilometer run, so we have to investigate more. Why? You dapat 2.0, 2.1 kilometer run, for example. You tak dapat 2.4, 2.5, all those things can narrow down. So you can zoom in, call drivers why, and then you have to investigate the loading. You have to investigate the routing, where I go, and then the heavy of the vehicle, cargo, and so on and so forth. Study lah. Oh, because they got 1.9, because they carried heavy load average at one particular time during that month. So which therefore they target the vehicle targeted only 1.5, 1.9 kilometer long. This is very important, yeah. And then you have to call the driver lah. Hey, why your target very low? Come investigate. And then during the investigation, for example, it's not investigate lah, survey lah, yeah. Cannot say investigate, survey that thing. During the Introgression, for example, oh, your target only 1.9. So I want to see your movement, daily movement, where to. Why is your cargo carried? How big is the cargo? How weight? What is the weight of the cargo? And so on. And that gives result. So we cannot, orang kata, punish them. Even they got target 1.9, so cannot punish them straight away. Maybe you got thing to do, ya. Tentang barang buatan dia bawa, berat, different, and then hilly, and then more stoppage, and so on and so forth. You can see the detail of the movement at that particular month, for example. Month. Kalau day pula, you want to catch driver for day, okay, normal your target is 2.5 kilometeran. Suddenly you get 1.9 kilometeran. So you can investigate them. Why? On that particular. More orang kata letters lah day, ya. And then you can straight away narrow down. Why? Minyak hilang ke apa dan sebagainya. So that after that you start follow them lah. Betul ke dia buat kerja ni and so on. See, it's part of the monitoring process and surveillance. Mungkin dia jual minyak tengah jalan and then engine tak mati, buka aircon all the time. Less movement tetapi engine on and so on and so forth. Yeah. Okay, fuel performance dia ada several step ya untuk monitor. Nama kata selecting fuel performance in the KPI. The first step measuring managing performance is to select the correct KPI to your operation. Key performance indicators. KPI progress question basic masalah operation across the fuel and comparing like with like. There are areas fuel management can be subject to KPI. KPI simple, easy, additional operator staff member to see real value in monitoring performance level. If they are immense in recording too many obscure okay, monitoring the vehicle performance and fuel, they can or kata put under KPI. KPI on that particular officers, operation officers and so on. KPI. As I said earlier, for example, your target is 1 million liters a year, a month, for example. So if you can save by 50,000 liters a month, that means that one is KPI. And then you have to maybe you can say a total number of fuel use and total number of kilometer run. You calculate lah kilometer run berapa. 400 vehicle, for example, calculate about 2.5 million kilometer, for example, movement. And then the usage of fuel 1 million. Okay, fair. That one is under control. So you have to do a program seeing that even though you are actually moving 2.5 million kilometer to all vehicle of that particular month, so you can measure. You make a graph there, signboard, watch out, and so on and so. So all these things people can see lah. Oh, you move 2.5 million kilometer. That means the liter usage is 1 million. That one is target is 2.5 kilometer per liter. So average 400 vehicle in that particular month, for example. So next month your target, you need to move more. Yeah, for example, 2.6 kilometer, 2.6 million kilometer, for example. You still remaining the fuel usage of 1 million liters, for example. Yang ini it's very important, yeah. So you can see, yeah, more performance, that means less fuel. This is part of monitoring part. Sometimes your movement kilometer run is 2.2 liter million kilometer, for example. The usage of vehicle should be less. The fuel consumption should be less, maybe 100,000. So you dapat apa? So you can run 2.4 kilometer run, for example, average for each vehicle. And then you can go to the vehicle to vehicle as well. Pun boleh juga, no problem. This is part of fuel monitoring performance lah. Yeah. Okay. Or we put as a KPI lah. So many things we can do KPI. Sometimes we can use sector by sector. For example, they got sector one, sector two, line one, line two, they got several officers monitoring and so on to monitor based on the operational activities lah. Yeah, because we have a number of officers there working instead of working the 100% operational review activities, so that one of the KPI just monitor the fuel. Also important. Sometimes organization want to put this, they are very orang kata lightly to monitor this because this one is very important so that so good lah, yeah. Put KPI and so on. Okay, as I said just now, KPI can do many things, vehicle to vehicle also, and then section by section, okay, month by month, officers by officers, ataupun drivers by drivers, also KPI to make sure that they are actually maximize the usage of the vehicle and fuel at one particular time. Many things can do lah. And then kita ada challenge trophy, for example, can do juga. Yang terbaik kita bagi reward to them. It's part of the campaign and communication. Yeah. So people are actually feeling thing. So at the same time, driver are actually very rich. So they are actually at any one time they are actually uh, monitor the performance of the vehicle and the fuel as well. Yeah. So what else? So during my time in the particular organization, I'm doing campaign, fuel cost, fuel saving, and so on campaign. And then the most and the idle driver doing thing, I going to reward them. It's not big, maybe 20, 30 ringgit cost, hamper and so on. They are actually very happy. Campaign. You can save cost. And then you also can place the photograph, good drivers, and so on to make sure that they are actually can be an example to other drivers as well. This is part of the orang kata example in fuel performance monitoring in day-to-day activities in the organisation. Pun boleh juga. Alright? Boleh. It's not only driver, maybe the supervisor in charge who can reward them. Bagilah hamper. Ataupun officers monitoring that thing, maybe you kan, dia akan dapat dia punya orang kata surat ataupun dapat medal, dapat hamper. It's not that expensive, but actually we actually reward them from time to time can be better. I mean they are happy lah. Part of the moral of the uh, people lah. Okay, yang ni I'm sure that you all already know in future, how to measure the kilometer run. And then every transport officer should know all these things, make sure the targets. That's why in anything that you can calculate target, day target, daily, ataupun monthly target. And you can see the average of the fuel usage based on the target. Also can use this. Okay. So normally daily cheats, in the organization, they are actually using fuel date time, vehicle number, and so on. This one is daily cheat and then produced by the drivers to the fuel in charge fuel pump in charge in the organization using chip, and then you can see, and then straight away then can key in the computer system and so on to monitor the daily activities of that particular movement, that particular drivers and people, so that This can accumulate within weeks, months, year, and so on, the total number of fuel use or usage on that particular vehicle. Boleh monitor. So which therefore you can see who are actually the best drivers. So can reward them lah every month. Driver ni paling baik menjaga minyak, tak ada kehilangan, target very high, and so on. Ini nama dia fuel fit ya. So we can have this in the black box atau white box in the office. You can see ya. For example, vehicle number kalau 100 lah, kilometer run berapa, taken, and so on, target, and so on. You can see that. And then this board can be seen to every drivers. We have 100 vehicle, 100 drivers. Oh, vehicle, this one is very thorough lah. Why? Why? So we can narrow down. You get 1.9, 1.8 kilometer. Now you can see, you can narrow down that particular vehicle. Why? Because the number of age of the vehicle very old car, and then the weight car. So we can investigate further. Maybe they are actually worried lah. Kalau kita investigate kan, kenapa you punya rendah sangat ni? So I'm going to investigate you. So all those things. So can be seen by 100 drivers. Oh, very low lah. So they are actually worried. So from time to time, they maintain their quality of work lah. Maybe they are actually doing malpractices during the working time, selling, running the engine, idling. On account 24 hours and so on, cost more fuel on particular. So it's not only you at the business, but drivers also witness themselves, one to another. So they are actually very worried. So kata dalam fuel management target dalam fuel management, fuel monitoring, So there are actually things that need to be done by the officers in charge, so that at the end of the day we can get profit lah. So the fuel is the cost. What we want here is the profits. Profits. So how to do the fuel management? Number one, you have to understand the tank. Tanki. Kalau kita buat internal tanker inside our compound, we have the tanks inspection. Make sure there is no corroded leakages. And then put the surveillance, fire extinguishers there, and then officers in charge or person in charge need to be good in terms of surveillance, in terms of emergencies, in terms of kata terbakar and so on, the processes, drill, fire drill and so on, they have to understand. This one is your responsibility to do the inspection to make sure that you are actually safe working there. Kalau terbakar, maybe exploded, cause you more parah. Accident dan sebagainya. So from the beginning part of it, you have to monitor lah. You have staff there. From time to time, you have to have verbal communication, so on and so forth. And then once in a while, you have to check the calculation part, then the fuel chain, and then how they input the process. Internal, external, and so on, to make sure that you are actually doing the right thing on particular time. And number two, they kata they are the vehicle inspection. Vehicle inspection, as we mentioned just now, target of the vehicle. And then they have a whiteboard there, and then show to the public, as a driver, show that we can do monitoring from time to time. If they got targeted very good in terms of target fuel per kilometer run, it's okay. But lower target, they have to make a proper surveillance, survey monitoring, go deeper and follow them, and call the driver why they investigate. So this is part of the fuel management, so inspection, and then make sure that the vehicle sent to Puspakom, inspection, repair, maintenance, see the engine conditions, how old is the engine, and so on and so forth. Engine ni lama ke baru ke dan sebagainya. It's a part of the process. Kalau lama, old engine, maybe they take orang kata more fuel. If new engine, less fuel. That one is a basic thing. Kalau new engine, they also target less, so you have to investigate more. All those things, yeah. And then dalam vehicle, you have fuel target, 2.5 kilometer run, 2.5. Average, you can see the average. This vehicle is 2.4, this vehicle 2.5, 2.7, 2.8 pun ada, and so on. Why? So average berapa? Whole target vehicle is about 2.4 kilometer run. That one is good. And then at the same time, you go deeper. Vehicle by vehicle. This one 1.9, this one 2.5. Go to the lowest one. Why? See the condition, how they manage, whether they're doing the first spray or not, inspection or not. Look at the age of the vehicle. So all these things. Okay, so dalam fuel tank inspection, dia ada storage, total number of vehicle, orang kata in one tank, how many kilometer, how many liter at one particular time. So need to be inspected by the officer in charge there, or person in charge at one particular time, proper, and then whether you can move for how many days, for example, and so on. This one is a part of the course, yeah. You also monitor. So dalam fuel target juga dia ada checklist, ya, checklist fuel target. Dia ada driver number, dia ada orang kata vehicle number, fuel check, and so on, ya. And then same time, you need to have at least control lah, yeah, on that particular through a proper checklist, yeah, for every vehicle, yeah, every vehicle to make sure that we are actually monitor that person or that vehicle. So our driver become worried because somebody monitoring, do a monitoring parts on top of that. So it's part of the control, the management, yeah. And then dalam course juga dia ada fuel leader. Fuel leader ni that mean leader in charge, ya, that particular orang kata control issue. For example, you issue minyak kan, dia actually fuel leader. So the person in charge on that petrol pump, fuel leader. So we have to check them lah, how they work according to the accounting punya system that use, normally use the system lah, key in, so on and so forth. Kalau tak key in, problem lah, because you cannot get a good target at the end. So we never miss ataupun misuse of that particular process, so that you can get good in term of control lah, and so on. So all these thing, issue, apa masalah, ya, masalah, problem, from time to time you have to orang kata improve, you have to improve, or if particular if you want need to do reporting to the higher formation, higher position, it's okay, good for you. For example, the tank that they got leakages, and then the display is not properly monitored, yeah, check, and so on, assess. And then the account, the total number of fuel inside the tank is not tally, as what you calculated on the ground, using the system, and so on. So maybe you can raise the issue to the higher authority so they can discuss and investigate. So at the same time, the fuel in charge there also worried, being monitored by somebody. So this one is part of control. Why lost, got different, so many, and so on and so forth. Normally in tanker punya loss, loss is normal based on the time. For example, when you store the fuel at one particular time, also they got hidden loss. Maybe orang kata in Malay we call it pejal wapan. Pejal wapan mean that they are actually lost in between when you store a longer period of time, in the particular tank, absorbed by atmosphere. Pejal wapan, 0.03% loss because of harbor. This is part of the cost loss. That's why at any one time you cannot store the fuel for the longer period of time because of you because they got what you call it heat, heat, panas, and so on, and then become the thing become on the heat, dia akan naik atas lah, dia jadi haba lah, penjaluapan So ini pun is consider minus minus cost of the whole process. Hidden cost yang hilang, missing in between because of the sunlight heat, so minus. Normally people in the particular organization they minus 0.03% from the total fuel in the container, in the tank. 0.03% every month minus 0.00%. If at any one time got 1 million, your time lah 0.03%, how much? That one is lost atmosphere. Kita kena faham They cannot tell you 100%. Boleh single tidak ada loss in between because of cuaca because of sunlight heat they cause atmosphere punya loss. I think that's all for fuel management, and then it's one very important. It got several things that akan sini kan, tapi sama lah So for you to do when you go to the organization proper, so that at any one time you know how to handle it. Handle it particular organization. So that I think that's all for today for fuel management process. I think you should be able to understand this thing, the processes of the fuel management and control. One day you're going to the job proper, you should be able to orang kata excel that thing lah, and then goods to you and also good to your company as well. It's very good, and then you can have a cost saving, and then at the end you need to be able to have a term of profitability lah, you can save this cost, that means you can save you can perform more on profit lah. And then the cost of fuel is about 20 to 30%. That means you can reduce bit. That means that one is cost a profit for you lah. And then you got several costs such as driver, mechanic, maintenance, and so of course that one is also can be monitored. But the most important, the most on kata very on kata good thing to monitor is the cost that use more fuel lah. Fuel cost more kan. So you have to monitor from time to time. So which therefore we can get term of result at the end of the day. I think that's all for today. Any questions so far? Any question?
No, sir.
No, Okay, kalau no, thank you very much. I think that's all for today. See you next week lah. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and thank you very much.